8 gigs of RAM, 256 SSD storage, and an M1 chip that'll knock your socks off. I'm not a computer wizard. I'm not going to tell you how fast this thing runs. I'm not going to tell you how fast the fans in this thing run at. I'm just going to tell you the facts that I know as an average consumer. We're going to get this out of the way right now. The only thing I can complain about this computer is the storage size. I wish I got more storage on this thing. I mean, I haven't used the full storage. I think I have around 70 gigs left of free storage. That's gonna be taken up very soon, and I'm gonna have to look for an external storage device very soon when that happens. That is literally the only thing I complain about this thing. Steve Jobs, this is the vision he had for Apple when he wanted to make Apple. This kind of technology, this innovation is exactly what Apple should do every year instead of reselling old iPhones. So I bought into the MacBook hype because they look amazing and well compared to my PC laptops, 13-inch versus this thing, which is 15-inch. The difference is just in the weight, the balance of it, the quality. Like, I feel like I could snap this thing in half if I really tried, you know, if I wanted to take out my anger for the day. This thing, on the other hand, I could not be able to break this with a sledgehammer, even if I wanted to. I mean, look at my arms, they're noodles, so I probably couldn't. This thing is very high quality. I definitely cannot snap this on a bad day. You know, if I'm feeling bad, it'll snap me in half. If you are a Google Chrome tab whore like me, every day I have about 5 YouTube tabs open, a couple of Amazon tabs, some Google Doc tabs open, random Google search tabs, 10 to 15 tabs open per use every time I use this thing. And I also do light video editing on it, like vlogs, not heavy gaming content stuff. If I wanted to do gaming content stuff, I just use my computer because this thing definitely won't be able to render all the effects. Now, like I said, I do light editing on Premiere Pro. Premiere Pro is a pretty big application to use, and I do multitask a lot. So all of that simultaneously, this thing has no problem. This thing runs like Mo Farah. I also use Lightroom, Photoshop, all the other studio applications Adobe has. It is the perfect size if you are young like me and your vision is actually, I have contacts in, so my vision is actually garbage, but because of modern technology, I can see 20/20. But if you are on the older side, and I'm not an ageist, but I know that it gets harder to see as you get older. I talked to my mom and she agreed. This thing is pretty small. You can adjust the text size in the settings if you wanted to, but I mean, just look at this. You can you see? Look how small that is. I know it's not just old people because I do have a problem sometimes, you know, I'll squint, you know. Like I mentioned before, the build quality is amazing on this thing. I mean, you cannot break this thing. I swear, if you dropped it, which I probably never will because I like to keep everything I own in cases. I mean, I have my MacBook here in a case. My phone is covered with a case and a screen protector. My iPad is covered with a case and a screen protector. I like to keep all my stuff in mint condition, and I've seen what car keys can do to this thing. Taryn Rule, who is an excellent video, who made a video on the same exact topic. His is well more produced than mine. He has very good shots, very good in-depth like review. So if you want to do that, if you want to check that out, I'll link that in the description for you. But he says he put his laptop in his backpack like I do every day, and he also had his keys in the bag, and it scratched one of these corners, one of these edges. You can see how crisp these edges are. These edges are finer than who is fine? I'm not gonna fucking skip that joke. These edges are cut from diamonds. I mean, these edges are so crisp, so clean. If I were to scratch one of these edges, it would be the end of me. Car keys. Everyone has car keys. We all put our laptop in our bags. You know, some people make mistakes, put their car keys in their bag with their laptop, and boom, you have a scratch on your expensive, beautiful laptop. Also, I've heard stories of people getting robbed in public, especially MacBooks, because these are expensive items and they're just so light. You could just run with this thing and get away with a crime. Yeah, so I heard that story, so I decided to get a case to hide it, but it doesn't really do a well job because, you know, the Apple logo is right there. I don't know. I thought maybe it might help. Maybe I can do a test someday. I'm definitely not going to do that. The balance feels perfect. Like, everything feels balanced. It is pretty heavy. I'm not going to lie. It is pretty heavy, but it's very compact. That's why. There's so much power in this thing. That's why it has the weight it has. I mean, I can open this thing with one hand, no problem. Ta-da. One hand, no problem. The weight is very good and balanced throughout the whole machine. Why did I say machine? Like, this is like a robot. This thing is a masterpiece. This art piece, I meant. And for the deal that you can get it for right now, which should be around $800, I'm not sure, but when this video drops, Black Friday is in a week from now, and the holiday season is right around the corner. So this thing should have good deals. And if you're a student, there should be even better deals. I went through and bought this thing through Best Buy. It was off for $100, so it was $900. And since I was a student, I got this thing for $700 plus tax. This thing will probably last me around 5 to 7 years. I have never owned a MacBook before, but I've done my research on Reddit and I have seen users say that their MacBooks would last them 3 to 5 years, but those were the older versions with the Intel processor. These ones are the new ones with the M1 processor, and these things are more than capable of handling a lot of stuff, so I'm not worried about the longevity. I feel like Apple really spent a lot of time on this specific processor. I'm not worried about this thing being outdated by next year's model or the model from 3 years from now. I'm not worried about that at all because this thing can do a lot on its own. The M1 processor is an experience in itself. So like I mentioned earlier, gaming on the MacBook M1 Air isn't really an experience at all. I've seen Terran Rule run a couple of games like Rocket League, but who plays Rocket League? If you're gonna game, I recommend getting a PC or a gaming laptop, period, because they have dedicated graphics card to handle stuff that gaming requires. The whole Apple integration system, like anything from my phone, snap my finger, it's on my laptop. And that thing is just a whole experience in itself. It's so useful. So typing on this keyboard, let me give you a little show of that. It's very sleek. When it comes to the typing, you can really hear it. And we're gonna go ahead and do a test right now. Here's me clicking on the center of the spacebar and then on the edge. It's like I'm clicking on the center of the spacebar, no difference. Battery life, I have no issue with this. Like I said, I use this thing maybe 5 to 6 hours a day, and I have no issue at the end of the day with this battery life. I mean, it is still usually above 50%, depending on if I have the brightness all the way up or if I'm watching a lot of videos or editing a lot on this laptop that day. I have no problem with searching on Google with all my Amazon, all my YouTube tabs open, Google Docs open, Adobe, Lightroom, Photoshop open. I have no problem with battery on this thing. This thing could last me 2 days without a charge if I wanted to, with full day use on both days. The webcam and microphone test, I'm not going to show you guys that. Wow, this thing looks like shit. Energy and heat. So this thing does not get very hot, and if you have a case on it, you don't notice the heat at all. Since it is around the cold season where I live, if I don't keep the case on this thing, this laptop gets cold because I have a window in my room that air gets in sometimes. So this thing will get freezing cold, and if I'm using this thing with shorts on, touching it to my skin is like putting dry ice on my skin. This case has more uses than for just protecting the laptop. Apple trackpads, you can't beat them. Look how big this thing is. Look at the keyboard size to the trackpad size. I mean, the trackpad is ginormous. Your fingers glide across it, smooth as butter, and the clicking, I mean, the clicking is just an experience in itself again. I mean, every little detail about this thing is just so satisfying. It's these little bits that you interact with your fingers that Apple just nails. Okay, that's enough me of sucking off Steve Jobs. Maybe you'll join the MacBook hype, maybe you won't. I definitely did, and I'm happy I did. I would never go back to my old PC laptop because this thing is just crazy.